it's Marina, travel experta. Today, we are going to be talking about San Cristobal de las Casas in Mexico. Are you guys ready for an adventure? Let's begin. San Cristobal de las Casas is located in the Chiapas region of Mexico, which is the southern part of Mexico. This is one of the most predominant indigenous regions of Mexico, and it has always been known for the Zapatista movement, which today is a lot calmer, but at one point it was in the height of the Zapatista movement. I was in San Cristobal 22 years ago, and here's the coolest thing, right? So 22 years ago, I was traveling through Mexico, and I was a backpacker. I was meeting all these other backpackers and traveling with them. And when I got to San Cristobal, I was traveling with this one particular woman as well, or girl at that point. We were traveling together and we were really hanging out. You know, sometimes you get really great connections with people, become really good friends with them. And I do remember how absolutely cold it was. However, that's pretty much all I really remember. And San Juan Chamula, which make sure you go and listen to the episode about San Juan Chamula and their church and sacrifices. I got an entire podcast about that. Anyways, so interestingly enough, my friend that I was traveling with there, who I met while traveling, went on to Tikal, Guatemala right after. You could go straight south into Guatemala through the northern part of Guatemala, which is the Mayan ruins. And she ended up meeting some guy that she ended up moving to Chile with and living with for years after. I continued traveling throughout Mexico and Belize before I arrived to Tikal. And in Tikal, literally 3 hours after arriving into Guatemala, into Tikal, the Mayan ruin park, I ended up meeting my husband. So it was kind of like a magical thing for both of us. So San Cris was where we parted ways, San Cristobal. But here we are now, 22 years later, and we came with my family. It was me, my husband, and my youngest son. My oldest son decided to stay in Guatemala with his girlfriend. So San Cristobal is this absolutely beautiful colonial town, really high up. It's about 2,400 meters above sea level. So just remember that for several reasons. One, obviously the altitude. Two, it does get cold. It gets cold. But if you're dressed warm, it doesn't matter because during the day, the sun is out and it's just really crisp and fresh. And then at night, it gets cold. So just make sure you bring your sweater. Even a hat and gloves could help sometimes. San Cristobal is, like I said, it's a colonial town with all these really cool pedestrian streets. The most popular one is Real Guadalupe, and then they have other streets. I think 15 de Marzo, 15 of March. Just check out those streets from, there's different squares and centers and plazas. It's just a lively town. We absolutely fell in love with San Cristobal. Absolutely fell in love with this little city above sea level. It is colorful. It has delicious restaurants, really beautiful streets. So a couple of things to remember. For us, we drove into San Cristobal. We stayed in a really adorable Airbnb, literally a couple of blocks from everything. We walked pretty much everywhere. We felt pretty safe overall. So we did walk around sometimes at 9 or 10 p.m. You don't really need a car there. You could easily get around everywhere. And if you want to do some tours outside of it, you could take taxis or have tour companies, or there's even public colectivos everywhere. One thing that I did have a lot of problems is exchanging dollars into pesos. Nobody wanted my dollars. Nobody. There are currency exchange places. You got to go and see when they're open because from what I discovered, even though they technically have a schedule, they were never really opened during the schedule is whenever they pretty much wanted to. And then sometimes their whole job is literally to exchange money. And sometimes they don't even have money to exchange. It was so peculiar. But they did I was able to exchange my money there. There are tons of banks. None of the banks wanted my money, but you could use your ATM there. So that's one thing that we did discover to be a hassle in the beginning. But then once we, went to the currency exchange, obviously you're not going to get your best rate. Either way, so there are tons of restaurants, there are tons of bars, there are tons of places to visit, chocolate places, cafes. I mean, it is a lively, really fun town. There's quite a few tours to take outside of San Cristobal. Please go and listen to my podcast about a cooking class in San Cristobal. I really recommend that. You will absolutely love that experience if you can, because you could then really feel the food from that area and learn. It's just a really fun experience. We also did a really cool motorcycle tour to take us to the canyon that is outside. Again, I have entire podcasts all about that, so please go and listen to that one as well to get an idea. And there are other different cool experiences that you can do. But if you're going to only be in San Cristobal for, let's say, several days, there's so much to do in the actual town itself, walking around. You could even get a bike. You could just check out. There's a lot of really great street art that you could check out, the murals. Make sure you go to the Mercado Viejo. I have an entire podcast about the Mercado Viejo, the old market, because it is crazy. I have been to tons of different markets. Excuse me. This is the only one that I actually have seen that has live animals for sale. For me, it was a little bit hard to manage. But again, go and listen to the entire episode about that. And another really important day trip is San Juan Chamula. You could go there during any day of the week, but market days are on Sunday. But again, the actual church, what you're going for. But go and listen to my podcast about that. I have a lot of detail about why that church is the most unique church in Mexico overall. So there are those things that you could do in San Cristobal. The majority of these things are half a day. The canyon, going to the Sumidero, and make sure you listen to my podcast about the Sumidero Canyon. That is a full day trip. Even if you don't get a motorcycle, if you go by taxi or by car, it is about 2 hours to get there, 4 hours there and back. So that's a full day. All the others, like San Juan Chamula, doing a cooking class and all the other stuff, those you could do in half a day and then enjoy the air and then enjoy just hanging out in the town. And there's also really good rock climbing around San Cristobal de las Casas. And to be honest with you, that is the number one reason we came as a family here. Today, for me, it's all about where my family can go climbing. And I'm happy to go wherever because I just love to travel. But for them, it's really important no matter where they go to make sure that there is climbing. And there is a great climbing area. Make sure you go and listen to Climbing in San Cristobal de las Casas episode, because I also talk about a really good group that could take you there. It's a couple like these people that could take you there to make it really local and great. So make sure you go and listen to that. So that is one of the main reasons we also came, is because of the climbing as well. So like I said, there's quite a lot to do there. And I would recommend at least 4 to 5 days. And if you want to do more stuff that's around there, give yourself about a week in that region. If you guys have been to San Cristobal de las Casas, please let me know what you've experienced. If you enjoyed this podcast, leave me a review, share it with your friends, and make sure you make every day an adventure.